The following episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show was recorded before the SAG-AFTRA strike began. Our guest is in full support of the strike and stands in solidarity with the efforts of fellow SAG-AFTRA actors in their fight for fair wages and protections.
Hi, I'm Ivy Austin, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it!
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Since July of 2021, Jake and his friends have interviewed professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and many more. Who will they be chatting with in this week's interview? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh. With me today, as always, our co-hosts Chris Bixby and Matt Bingel with his pal, Wayne Monster. How you guys doing?
Doing good, Jake. How are you?
Good.
That's good to hear. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Matt or Mari, what do you have for today?
Glad you're with us, folks, for another episode. Glad you're with us. Today's guest is a puppeteer, voice actor, and director. He started working at Sesame Street in 2016, and since 2019, he's been the puppeteer of Samuel, Julia's older brother. He's also the founder of Simple Mischief Studio, plus lots more we'll get into. Please welcome Spencer Lott. Spencer, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, how's everybody doing? What a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. We're happy to have you here. Very happy to have you here. Very excited
Yes,
to have
absolutely.
you
Thank you.
as part of our show. Fantastic. Yes, indeed. So we know who you are, and I kind of introduced you a little bit. But in your own words, would you care to introduce yourself and kind of describe what you do a little bit?
Sure. So my name is Spencer Lott. I'm a puppeteer, actor, writer, director, producer, and that's the thing I love about puppetry is that I get to do a little bit of everything. So as an artist, it's very, very fulfilling. I get to do TV and film and commercials and theater and all kinds of different projects. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So before getting into puppetry and theater, how did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Let's see. I am a Midwest kid, as you can tell by this very subtle Midwest hat that I am wearing. I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas, which is a great college town. University of Kansas is there. And so there was good food, interesting people, lots of art, lots of students and professors. And I have amazing parents who have supported my artistic journey throughout my entire life, and very good teachers as well, incredible teachers. So I started out wanting to be a puppeteer. I was obsessed with, I was a PBS kid. I couldn't watch, we didn't have cable and those kind of things, so we watched PBS. So I loved Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, Shining Time Station, like all those classics with a wide variety of puppet styles. And I just became obsessed with the idea that there was someone underneath that character. I loved looking for rods. I loved identifying voices and who was doing, when puppeteers were doing more than one character. I loved the, puppetry for me was this great kind of on stage and performance, but also behind the scenes thing all at the same time. So I grew up wanting to do it and had incredible support the entire time. I started my own company and did library shows and shows for summer camps and Boy Scouts and stuff like that, and went from there to go on and get training and take classes, and I've been very, very lucky to end up where I am.
Nice. So
That's
how did your love of puppetry and the arts kind of transition into having a career in puppetry?
There's no straight path, as I know lots of people on the show have said. There's all these different journeys to get you there. I found that I could do, I started making money doing my own one-man shows. So a library would book me. I do a couple of versions of, I do a version of the Three Billy Goats Gruff on a Saturday morning, and I would be paid for it, and that was like such an exciting thing. I didn't have to have a a normal job or go wash cars or work at a golf course or anything like that. I could get paid to do my art. And once that happens and people start saying, you're good at this, or you should keep working at this, it's a spark. It's addicting, and you're like, oh well, I can do more. I can make the shows bigger. I can tour to this many schools or libraries, and you kind of become, like so many artists. When you're an artist, you are also an entrepreneur, and you're kind of trying to carve out a corner for yourself to, like you guys have done with this podcast. You surround yourself with talented people. You ask questions, and those are all the things that help start a business or start a career. And there's always ups and downs, and times where it's really good and times where it's not. But if you have support and creativity and determination, then it's pretty amazing how far you can go. So I'm very proud to be a professional artist and get to do this all day long. It is the best. It really is.
Oh yeah.
So I just love it. And it's difficult, but it's so worth it.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So I'm kind of curious, what was the first professional thing you did as a puppeteer?
That's a great question. So I started doing shows for just with my own little kind of company, maybe when I was 14 or 15. But I'm recalling I did as an actor, I got cast in a community theater production when I was in 3rd grade. And so for about a week of my 3rd grade, I got to leave school to go be in this play with a bunch of adults. And that was like that first thing. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I get to spend time with adults who are super interesting and weird. I get to skip school. Like this is kind of a dream. And then so that was like early on 3rd grade. I got a lot of encouragement then. And then in terms of puppets, there's a local company in Kansas City. They're now called What If Puppets. I'm sure you guys have heard of them, but they used to be called it was like the Paul Mesner Puppets, and he was a regional puppeteer who did like old school rod puppet shows, and was a very good performer. And he had built up this kind of substantial nonprofit theater. And so he was doing, I think it was like a Christmas show, some kind of like holiday show in downtown Kansas City. And they were always looking for more puppeteers. And he would take you on if there were young kids. He was a good mentor in that way. If there were young kids in the community who wanted to be puppeteers, he would mentor them. So I don't know if you all have, like take your child to work day. That sometimes happens. I would go spend it with Paul and follow him around at the studio and see what it was like to live a life as a puppeteer, as a professional artist. And once you see people doing it, you're like, oh, this guy just drinks coffee and checks his emails just like any other person, and then he builds puppets for an hour, and then he goes to rehearsal. There's kind of, once you start seeing other people doing it, you're like, oh, I think I might be able to do that. So it was early because I had the puppet bug early. It was probably 12 or 13 working with Paul, and then doing my own thing when I was 14, 15, 16 around town. And it just scales up from there.
Nice. So just like Matt mentioned, you've had the great pleasure of puppeteering on Sesame Street now for several years. How did you kind of first begin working for Sesame?
Oh my gosh. So, like everyone, there's no straight path, right, to Sesame, but as you've talked to, Jen Barnhart and all these people who are Kathy Kim, who came through workshops, right? And so I got to know some of the Muppet performers, like specifically Pam Arciero and Martin Marty, who are kind of my mentors and heroes. And I went to the O'Neill Theater conference, the National Puppetry Conference there at the O'Neill, when I was 17. And I met Marty. I got to work in a play. I think you've also interviewed Annie, right? Annie Evans wrote this play.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. So she wrote a play about children's television, and Marty did all the puppets for it.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie Carrara was in it, and so many talented people. and I was in that track, and I got to be in that show and meet Marty and Leslie. And what, after rehearsal one day, Marty was like, "Hey, you're pretty good for a 17-year-old. Lot. How's your monitor chops?" And I was like, "What's a monitor?" I'd been watching Muppets and Sesame for years, but it never occurred to me to train on a monitor. I was doing like theatrical puppetry, and I thought it would transfer immediately. He's like, "Oh no, kid, you got to get good on a monitor." And so we would skip half of dinner every night that week, and him and Tim Lagasse set up a camera on a tripod, and they just drill. We would just like do exercises, looking, down barrel, looking right, left, entering, exiting, walking, like all the basic fundamentals of TV puppetry. I got a crash course in from Tim and Marty at the O'Neill, and I was very bad at it. And I was like, "Oh, this is a fun challenge." And so I went home, and I practiced every day for a year. Every single day I was on camera trying things, working on things. I would play, those days we didn't have access to all the Muppet shows, right? But there were some of them that were on DVD, and so I'd play the Muppet Show DVD over and over and lip sync to those characters, lip sync to songs, monologues, whatever I could to just like get it in my bones, so I didn't have to think about it. And so that was like my relationship with Marty and with Pam and Leslie and the Muppet performers. And then I would just stay in touch with Marty, and I'd send an email every so often, be like, "Hey, here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm auditioning for." And like you'll hear the story with so many other performers. He was lovely and supportive and encouraging, and try this, do this. And then out of the blue, he sent me, I got an email that's like, "Hey, there's Sesame's doing a training workshop. Do you wanna be a part of it?" And I, jumped, and I was like, "Absolutely." And I skipped my first week of classes, my freshman year of college, to go to New York for the very first time to do a workshop. This was 2006. And I had to tell my professors, "I'm going to Sesame Street for the week. Please don't drop me from your classes." And some professors were like, "That's so cool. That's amazing." And some professors like, "Yeah, whatever, kid. I hope you come back." And so I did it. So I went up to New York, and it's like you've heard so many times on this show, it's kind of a cutthroat environment. There's 50. It's kind of like a reality show. There's 50 of us from the United States and Canada, and it's my first time like holding a Muppet, holding like a real Muppet from the Henson workshop, and I'm like looking at the stitching and the tags and just like losing my mind. And then you go through the line, and they're like, "Okay, hop up there and tell us, enter in the frame, tell us your name," that kind of thing. And they would just do these exercises, and it was Kevin and Matt and Joey Mazzarino.
Yes.
We're leading it, Marty, and then various people would come by, and that was the first time I met Ryan Dillon. The two of us were the youngest, people in the room,
Oh, wow.
and we just did the thing, and I kept making it. After Monday, they cut people, and I made it to Tuesday, and Tuesday they cut people, and I made it to Wednesday, and they cut people, and I made it to Thursday. I made it all the way through up until the final day on Friday. I think they stuck around with maybe 6 or 8 people. Ryan Dillon, David Stevens, a few of our like favorites, and names that you would recognize. But it was enough of encouragement. So I made it to Thursday before they cut me, and I was 18. And so it was like, well, I'm not there yet, but I'm doing something right. I'm getting the kind of, feedback that's like, okay, I think I might be onto something. I think I might be able to do this. So one of the things that I left with that workshop was I need to work on my improv. A lot of, they give us scripts and songs and things, but then you were expected to improv in and out of those things, or be able to develop a character. And I needed work on that. I didn't have a lot of like classic improv experience. So when I went back to University of Kansas, I joined an improv team, and started learning short form, long form, taking classes, reading books, that kind of thing. So like whatever I would learn that I need to work on, I would try and find through university and build up all skills. I took design classes and directing and acting and all those things, because it all adds up to become to fill your toolbox so that you can hang with everyone. So that was 2006, and then I didn't hear anything for I didn't hear anything for a decade. And then in 2000, almost a decade, and then 2014 maybe, there was another workshop, and I got an invitation to that. And then maybe another one in 2015 before I got my first gig in 2016. And then I was right-handing for Marty, and it was a co-production with Sesame Street and SNL, and so it was Kate McKinnon and Tilly Monster. And so I was like, great, I can retire. I've done it. This is, what I don't need to do any more days on Sesame Street.
Gosh.
This is as good as it will ever get. And so we're doing this bit on the roof of the Sesame building. Tilly's like reporter on the street, kind of, and Kate McKinnon is like a bystander that he's interviewing. I'm doing the job, and it's a real mic. It's like a heavy metal microphone. And of course Marty knows it's my first day, and so he's like putting me through my paces. He's like, "You're gonna start with the mic, and then you'll hand it to me, and then I'll hand it back to you." And I was like, "Ooh, we're doing it." It's like 90 degrees out, it's like bright sun. I'm sweating, and then the director comes over and goes, "Hey Spence, it's really good. I'm wondering if you could just hold the microphone a little bit closer to Kate's mouth." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, because that's the only way that we're getting her audio. It's a live mic. She doesn't have a lavalier on. And I was like, what? This microphone, this puppet holding a microphone is the only way that you're capturing the audio from Kate McKinnon? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. So then I'm like shaking and holding it close to Kate's mouth and trying not to blow the take and get it as close to her head without, punching her in the face with the Sesame Street microphone. And it was so difficult and so challenging and so much fun. And Kate McKinnon looks down at us. We're on our scooters on the ground, and she looks down at us between takes, and she goes, "This is your job. How cool is that? This is your job." And I was like, "Yeah, and this is my first day." She goes, "Oh, bless your heart, you're doing it." It's like, oh,
that's wow.
Thanks, Kate McKinnon.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
And so then it just goes from there, right? Sesame is like getting to play with the smartest, most lovely, funniest, quickest, most dynamic performers. They're just really, I can't say enough. They make it. They're experts at making it look easy, and it is not. And so I cherish every day that I get to be there. Over the last from 2016 to now, I've done probably over 150 jobs between episodes and the Tonight Show and music videos and YouTube videos and the Kennedy Center. All kinds of like amazing things, and it's never you don't take it for granted. It's very much, anytime you get to work with Sesame, it's just a joy. And to be a tiny, to be playing Sam and to be a tiny part of the Sesame legacy is just, I'm a kid from Kansas. And so the fact that I can say that I made it to Sesame Street, and then I can, I'm not, I get to work and play with my mentors, people that I would read about in books, checking out from the library when I was a kid. That has been pretty spectacular.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. We have a friend like that who also works at Sesame. Not sure if I had the chance to work with him, by a guy by the name of Brandon Smith. He started his first year this past year at Sesame.
I love Brandon. I actually may have been there on his first day or very early on.
Wow.
It's just like you. It's great when talented people find their way. Like Brandon is such a sweetheart and such a lovely human being, And
Yes, he is.
that's often those are the people that find their way to Sesame Street, are the people that you want to
Yep.
spend a lot of time with. Yeah, he's a gem.
Absolutely.
Oh,
How
yeah.
long have you known him? Almost 3 years. Well deserved too. Very well deserved.
He's wonderful, like amazing,
His
amazing.
like you mentioned improv. His improv's amazing. His singing is great, and just a wonderful guy. Well deserved. You folks will probably be seeing some of his work. Maybe probably this coming
It's
season.
November.
Oh
This
yeah, and same
November
goes
for
with
Sesame.
That's usually when a season comes
yes,
out.
yeah. Oh yeah, same goes with
Starting in
Sebastiano Ricci.
Oh yes, Sebastiano Ricci.
Yes.
Yeah, that's his first season too.
Sebastiano
Yeah.
Ricci. It's his first season as
Yes.
well.
There's a whole
Absolutely
group of newer performers who are coming in, and they're lovely and they're talented, and they get thrown into the deep end, and they're doing awesome work, and they take it really seriously, and it's
As they should.
Yeah.
it's the best. We're so lucky to be able to work with them.
Definitely.
That's fantastic. So I'm curious. What was your first day like getting to walk on this iconic set of Sesame Street? Take
So
us through that.
my first day, I got cast. I was right-handing for John Tartaglia.
Oh,
And
nice.
he was doing a I think the episode, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's in season 46, I want to say, and it's like it's like To the Moon, or Elmo Goes to the Moon, or something like that. And Elmo's making a cardboard rocket ship, and Johnny T was playing a puppet version of Bruno. You guys know Bruno, who carries around Oscar's trash can?
Yeah, yeah.
That Carol
Yes.
Spinney would do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's this beautiful small scale puppet that they made, kind of like as an homage, like to Bruno. And I was right-handing for Johnny, and we had to like scoop up this thing of cardboard. And did we rip it? I feel like we had to rip it on camera. Like it was Elmo was trying to save it for a spaceship or something, and we ripped it. It's just a tiny little moment. But walking on it's one of the cool things about Sesame. It's kind of an equalizer, right? We get to work with celebrities and musicians and politicians, all these people. But when you walk on set, you're a kid. It's all these things that you recognize, and you have all this nostalgia and all these memories for these places. Big Bird's Nest and Oscar's trash can, and Hoopers and all these things. And so it's just it's so much fun. it's so fun. And then as an actor performer, you're like taking notes, and you got your eyes open and your ears open, and you're like it's a live set, so you're trying to stay out of the way. You're trying to see how the pros do it. Whenever you get a chance, we're trying to be on the floor watching. You're watching David Rudman, Matt Vogel, Carmen. You're watching all these phenomenal performers do their job, and like, okay, they ask for this, they treat the crew this way, this is how they talk to the writers. You're picking up all these little tips and tricks so then when it comes to you, you're like, okay, I think I know what to do. I think I know what to ask for and how to set up myself for success. And so you're in kind of sponge mode. You're taking it all in and making sure that when they throw you the ball, you're ready to catch it and then pass it on so that you don't drop it, you don't lose that momentum. So yeah, it's a cool place to be. It's a magical place to be, especially like when Big Bird comes out, or Snuffy.
Oh, yeah.
When Snuffy comes running, onto the set, everyone is just like, Snuffy. Like, we're such nerds, and we're such lovers of the show and lovers of the legacy, and so it's like Sesame Street is one of the few shows where its own performers wear the merch. We'll wear Sesame t-shirts and jackets and all that stuff because we are fans. We love it, and we're so tickled that we get to be a tiny part of it. So being on set is it's magical.
Speaking of Snuffy, didn't Jennifer Bernhardt mention like a Snuffy sighting in
I
Manhattan?
was going to mention that.
Yes.
Funny enough.
Yes. I think it was Jennifer Bernhardt.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Yes. It was Jennifer Barnhart, and I forgot what it was for exactly, but
It
do
was
you
where
remember what it
Snuffy was running around the streets of
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
And
Yeah,
you see just traffic like stop
Yeah,
because
and
like
Brian,
they
and Brian,
like
yeah, and she
yeah,
mentioned how traffic stopped because they saw Snuffy.
because of Snuffy sighting in Manhattan.
yeah.
That's right.
If people just want to
Even
take pictures of
the jaded
videos,
New Yorkers, even New Yorkers who couldn't care less, they stopped their cars for Snuffleupagus.
For
You better believe it.
Snuffy.
I bet
Yeah.
I
yeah.
think they were shooting a commercial there like on location, like Lower East Side or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my
I mean
gosh.
that's the fun part. We've done stuff out in the world with all kinds of characters in Big Bird. Like it's so fun when Big Bird is out in the world and you see people stop and be like, wait, is that Big Bird? And he's like, hello, and they're like, ah! It's and that's one of the advantages of puppets too, right? If it's cartoon, we love it, but it's behind that screen, and when you can bring a puppet into the real world, and there's real dust in the air, and they're really walking through the grass, there's something intrinsically inside us. Like, ooh, it's a magic show. It's part of the fun thing that puppets can do.
Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Brian Mueller didn't like make it. So basically, Mario told Jennifer, so like, okay, you did it front half. Now it's your turn to get in the back half.
Brian Young, yeah.
When you're Snuffy, if he's front, you better keep up.
That's right.
You better keep
Yeah,
up.
keep up.
Yeah, and
That's
Brian's
the fun part of an ensemble, right? So you got to be ready for anything. You got to be ready to throw you in the back. That's right. And Bryant Young, who's done the role for decades, is so good and
longer
so
longer
cool as
than
a
Marty,
cucumber.
longer than Marty's
Right?
done like the front end. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
We did get to go. I got to go in the front end of Snuffy once, and
Oh, okay.
figure out, and to test out the trunk and the eyes and the mouth, and it's so fun and difficult, and the scale of it
I
is
love
great, and
Snuffy.
the character is beautiful. It's like such
Yeah.
a fun character.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep. What about
Oh, who we got here?
Hi, Julius. Hi.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, I
Hello.
love it. Julius, what's
Thank
up,
you.
Julius? How are you?
I'm doing good, Spencer. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's lovely to see
good.
you in person.
Lovely to see you too. I heard a chunk. I get called a mini Snuffleupagus a lot, because of my chunk, and thankfully nobody has to keep up. Thank goodness. Nobody has to keep up with me, so it's all good. But I do get called a mini. We had Marty Robinson on our show previously, and it was really cool because I got my own little technically Matt got his own little snuffy voice lesson from him, so to speak. It's a little more difficult than you think, but it is so worth it. It was really cool. It really was. It was a highlight for me and for me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Marty's one of the best, right? There's a reason that he is where he is, and he's worked on the projects he has. He's so talented, and he's consistent. He's talented. He's the best. He's lovely. That's awesome that you got to listen. Julius, the mini Snuffy is a great role for you. I think you're gonna be cast right away. So congrats.
I would hope so. I mean, I've there was a Bear the Big Blue House episode from like season 3 called the Tutter Family Reunion. I had a dream once where there was a Sesame episode entitled The Snuffy Family Reunion, and I was in it. I don't know why. I just feel like the coolest thing. You just see all these Snuffies, like Alice is brought back, and you see all these little mini Snuffleupagus just running around like crazy,
Yeah.
Just causing chaos
in
on
the
Sesame
family
Street,
tree, right?
Yeah.
Definitely in the family
Absolutely.
tree. I'm not sure where I'm at though.
Yeah.
Yeah, those genetics are very strong. It's clear. Once you're Snuffleupagus, it's very clear.
There's no going back.
That's right.
What are some of your favorite episodes you worked on, Sesame?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's hard. Let's see, what are some of my favorites? I like the weird ones. I love the ones where there's like big ensemble numbers or music numbers. I love when we get to be like a pack of dogs or a gang of ducks or I got to do or vegetables. Like my favorite is just being vegetables in the background. Like that is there. It's hard to beat that. I got to do. I got to play a character named Kyle. It's like head of cabbage named Kyle.
Oh wow.
For a Cinderella bit, and Abby's trying to poof him to turn into a pumpkin. She's playing Cinderella, and she's having trouble. It's not working. And so the first half of the sketch, you don't even know that the cabbage is a character. It's just a head of cabbage. And she's like, "Oh, I'll never beat Cinderella." And then the head of cabbage spins around and is like, "Hey, keep trying. You'll be great, Abby." And she's like, "Thanks, Kyle." It's like those one-offs that I loved as a kid. Joey Mazzarino's characters, that just like came in
Oh yeah.
screaming and chewed up the scenery, had a joke and got out. Anything that Rudman's one-off characters, where he'll come in and just make these bold, weird choices, like all those. I can't think. I mean, in terms of fun things, the 50th anniversary special was really.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, that was
Amazing.
magical, you
Amazing.
guys.
Yes.
I mean, it was just everything you hoped it would be.
Yep,
the
everyone was
back.
there.
Yeah, it was really and that shot where there's all the classic characters and
Yeah, at
Biff
the
and
end,
Sully and Captain
Mhm.
Vegetable, all like the whole range, and it was just a puppet kid's dream. It was like so fun just to be in the room, because they're not those puppets, those classic ones aren't on set,
right.
all the time, and so to have them there, we were all just like, "Oh, can you believe who's here? Captain Vegetable is here today." It was just so fun.
Did you get to, for the 50th, did you get like to put like any of those classic characters on?
Oh, you better believe it. Yeah, we would. It's part of the fun part of being a puppeteer. You try it on, you're like, "Oh, look how they built this," and oh, your fingers go here, and it's oh, it's a little bigger than I thought, or it's small. There's always ways to learn, and sometimes the best way to learn is just like get your hands on that puppet. You don't go around like doing your impression of it or anything. You just take
Right.
it and you're like learning. You're like, how is it constructed? How does that inform the character? Who, and they those puppets have their hints and tags in them, right? So you can see who it Henson built it, what year. It's like this kind of living history lesson. So yeah, it was so
That's great.
fun to be around those classic characters. It's just the best.
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
Since you're here, you want to ask one? Sure. Speaking of projects, one of the projects you worked on was with Sesame, one of the Christmas specials, Once Upon a Sesame Street Christmas. Yes. Terrific special. Absolutely terrific.
Yeah, that one was great. The set was all decked out old school, and it was snowing, which was magical. And the talent, like the cameos, celebrity cameos were really good. Those are just so much fun. I think we shot it like in the middle of July, and so it's always fun to like walk on a set covered in snow in the middle of summer, and it's great. Those things are so fun. And then what's fun about the specials is that you can go back and you can rewatch it. You can watch it with your family or pull it out every holiday season. But that one was a lot of fun. And who did I get to work? Chris Hayes was on that one.
Oh, nice.
Who plays Hoots and Elijah. And him and I were just like assist state players on that one, and we were just like, living the dream. That one was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really fun special. I saw it for the first time actually last year.
Oh yeah. It's a cool concept. It's in there. There's some really nice stuff in there.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
So what was it like, getting to meet the original human cast members on the 50th special?
They're so familiar, right? We all spent so many years watching them and getting to know them, and so you just, you introduce yourself and you're like, hey, my name is Spencer. I'm one of the new guys. You don't know me, but I love you and I love this moment from this show. And, thank you for being a part of my childhood. And those people are the best. And they're true to form. Anytime I was in the room with Bob, um,
Ugh, presses.
there's just, like those moments are things that you cherish. Emilio, Gordon, all these people are so talented and so lovely, and they've made such an impact for so many generations. And so you ask questions. You
Yeah.
ask them about their tenure and their careers and what they're excited about, or moments that they remember working with Jim and working with Frank, and those kind of things. There's this kind of so even though our times there don't overlap, you have this kind of shared common language, and a lot of our colleagues overlap. So you can ask them what it was like, and
Yeah, it's a
tell
real
them
shame.
how much you love their stuff.
Real shame that we lost Bob and Emilio too. Same year too.
Yeah.
I know, it was really sad, and they've both made such a huge impact.
Yeah, it'll never be
Um,
forgotten.
yeah, it's so true. I was able to be at Bob's memorial a little while ago, and it was just it was beautiful. It's beautiful. People love him and adore him, and he took it so seriously and was so open to the fans and wanted to be there for them. And it's a great lesson in just how to be a decent human being. They're and Emilio too, just like rock star, um, musician and actor and professional. And yeah, to be a part of a tiny part of that legacy is the best.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So now we also mentioned in your introduction, of course, you have your own character, Samuel, who is for those who don't know, Julia's older brother. And Julia is Sesame Street Muppet with autism. So how did Samuel come about?
So like so many things at Sesame, they do a ton of research. They talk to parents, they talk to teachers, like what kind of things do young people want to see? What kind of things do they need? And as we know, autism is so prevalent, and there's so many families who are craving materials and opportunities to talk about autism, or to find communities around that. And so the Julia work was in a very high demand, and they couldn't make enough stuff. I think it started out. This could be wrong, but I think it started out just as a book, and they were going to introduce it, and then
Right,
it was
yeah.
so popular that they're like, oh man. And then they created the puppet, and that her family happened in a similar way. Is my understanding, is that they said, oh, maybe we can build out Julia's world. And so they gave her an older brother, Sam, and her parents. And so by the time I was brought in, it was the very final steps. They'd already been through all these, rounds of design, and the Henson shop was building it, and they'd written his little bio and stuff like that. And then you audition. I was actually in the hotel room in Pittsburgh shooting A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Um,
Oh,
Yeah.
when I auditioned for Sam. Um, and I've spent so many, sometimes the auditions come in and I go, this is not mine. And then sometimes like, oh, I think I have a take on this character. Um, I've spent the last decade creating theater for that population, young people, neurodiverse young people. And so I've gotten to meet hundreds and hundreds of families and siblings who are just like Sam, who are caregivers and supports for their sibling with autism. And so I was like, oh, and I'm an older brother. And so I was like, oh, I think I know what it is to balance both these worlds, to both want to be a kid, but also know that your family needs you to help support your sibling. And so it was it felt right. It's like, oh, this feels really important. Um, so then, I submitted a voiceover audition first, and then they called me in for a callback, and then I was there in person, and it wasn't, the Sam puppet wasn't built yet, so it was just like a general kind of little boy kid, and I auditioned with Stacy as Julia, and
oh,
we did a scene together. Um, and it went, it went. I've known Stacy for a decade, through the puppet scene. I knew her, so I was comfortable with her and excited about it. And after the audition, she said, "That was really good, Spence." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, thank you very much." And we get to be brother and sister, and it's just the best. That it's one of the things I think that Sesame does really well. The kind of social justice initiatives, the work that they're doing right now with racism and belonging is profound, and not a lot of places are doing it, and it's super important. And the work they're doing around autism is so important and is making such an impact. The stuff they're doing in their international communities, and the new co-pros that they're cooking, those things that are really what kind of takes Sesame beyond just your average preschool show, right? So to be a part of that is really, we take it really seriously, and we really try and honor the audience. And Sesame's doing really good at making more and more stuff with people on the spectrum. So sometimes, we'll do animated web videos or something, and they're bringing in artists, writers, directors. And so I think there's a future where a lot more content's being made, and it's being made by people who are neurodiverse, which is the way it should be. So it's a really exciting, it's a really cool initiative.
Yeah, and you mentioned web videos. One song that I cannot stop listening to is the I Love My Family song.
Yes.
It's good. It's a
that the
bop,
four of you
right?
did, yeah.
It is a
Yeah,
bop. Yes.
it's catchy. There's there's
awesome.
some really fun stuff we've got to do. And I hope, and Stacey and I are always pitching new stuff for Sam and Julia to do, and so we hope that there'll be lots more, because it's I think we've just scratched the surface with that.
Yeah, because there's an episode in the new season where about like riding a horse in season
Yes.
3. Yeah.
Oh yes, I love that episode.
That was a real horse, y'all.
Yes.
That was a real horse.
Yes.
Like 100 degrees, and that was a real horse. They had a stand-in, and they had some like a puppet version of it, but that, for those shots, that's a real horse. It was, it's like
real.
So fun and so difficult, and we're just like trying to take care of each other and get the shot that we need to get. And that was a day that was like, we are puppeteering with a real horse, and it's 100 degrees outside. It was really fun and really hard.
And that's why it's fun, but it's a challenge, but it's also fun too.
Yeah,
that's
challenge.
right.
It's a fun
it's puppets.
Yeah.
It's puppets at the end of the day, right? So you gotta
exactly.
keep a smile, and also keep from getting bit by a horse.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, if you don't want to, it's completely fine. But is it fine if you can hear a bit of Samuel?
Oh, you want a little Samuel cameo? Let's see. I'm not really warmed up right now.
No worries, you can warm up.
Okay, let's see. Hey guys, it's me, Sam, and Julia is eating graham crackers in the back, and so she's not around right now. But I could answer any questions that you, if you have questions, we could do that, and it's otherwise just me, just hanging out.
Awesome.
Julius, hey friend.
Hey Samuel, how are you?
You got any questions, man? Or let's see, what can I ask you? Julius, what are you into right now, man? What kind of music are you listening to?
I like a whole bunch of music. I like a wide variety. But I'm into classic rock. I love classic rock.
Yeah. Classic rock is cool.
That's
classic.
It's wonderful.
I'm always trying to get more clarinet into classic rock, and they don't listen. They don't listen to me. But my dad plays sax, and so I think that's cool. There's a lot of good sax solos in classic rock. Yeah.
You mentioned sax. I'm wondering, do your dad and Hoots ever play together from time to time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have jam sessions sometimes, and it's really
wonderful.
It's really loud, but it's really fun too. And that's why I play the clarinet. Actually, is because you have to learn how to play clarinet first before you can play saxophone. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. And then one day I'm gonna play the tenor sax, or maybe I'll play the baritone sax so I can play with Hoots and my dad. Cause sax is a fun instrument.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Aw.
That'd be really cool if you got to jam with your dad and Hoots. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you and the rest of your family are doing well, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing great. You know, we were horse riding recently, and we've been doing some game
Yes, you
shows.
do.
There we're who knows what we'll be up to next, but we love doing things as a family, and Julia's my best friend, and we have a really good time together.
Awesome.
Ah,
That's
it's
awesome.
fantastic. That is fantastic.
Great to see you, Sam. Hope we can see you again on Sesame Street.
Bye, guys. I'll see you soon.
See you, Sam. Oh, great character.
Yes, absolutely.
Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt or
I
Julia,
mean,
so which one do you
he's
want?
no Kyle the Cabbage, but he's all right.
Right.
Right. Good enough for us. Yeah. You
Yeah.
take next one. So I'm curious, how much of an impact do you think having an autistic Muppet like Julia has on the autism community?
I mean, I would, from my point of view, we know that representation matters, and seeing that as a part of the community, I think is enormous. It's just, that saying, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. It is truly a spectrum, and neurodiversity, is so much a part of our community and culture and just who we are. So to have at least a version of it represented at Sesame Street feels really important. It's one character is not enough, as we know, but as it grows, and there will be an entire generation of kids who feel seen, who feel like they are a part of the show and that they belong in a part of the show and in the greater context in their community. And so I think that's huge. I do a lot of teaching artist work and volunteering, and I'll go into classrooms with kids on the spectrum, and they dig it. They're like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be the puppeteer for Julia. So it's like it's hitting them on multiple levels, and they feel seen, and so I think it's and we don't always get everything right, but I think we're getting there, and I think it's really important that kind of representation is a part of Sesame Street.
Definitely. And similarly, with having
Absolutely.
characters like Tamir and Ji Young and Gabrielle,
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts about people of different cultures feeling represented?
I mean, I think it's the same thing, right? First of all, those performers are so good, right? Bradley and Kathy Kim and
Yes.
everybody, they're rock stars,
All
and
previous guests love
they're
those
being
guys.
asked. Oh yeah, good. You guys have good taste. They're being asked to do a lot, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? The more that we can see ourselves portrayed in media, on TV, especially young people can see themselves on TV, it makes all the difference. And there's story after story after story of, young people who are cosplaying as Chi Young and skateboarding, or doing science like Tamir. Like this stuff is, it's contagious, and that kind of representation is absolutely huge. And so I can't wait to see this next generation is going to be even more inclusive and feel like they belong even more. And that's the only way forward, right? I think that's really important. So I love it. I'm all for it, and I think it's one of the most exciting things that Sesame's doing right now. So I feel super fortunate to be around during this era of Sesame.
Absolutely.
I know, and I could
Absolutely.
as speaking of Kathleen Kim, I can only imagine what was going through her mind, because like one of the first things we got to see Ji Young was in the Macy's parade that the year she was introduced.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How's that for a introduction, right? Not too
Literally,
right,
yeah.
right.
she's a rock star. She's an absolute rock star. Wait a minute. What is happening right now? Stranger in our Zoom room. We call the authorities. What is happening right now?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Runkle.
Once again, DJ Bob Runkle.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah.
How are you, Bob?
Like, I don't know how many times, but
I just
Like-
show up when I want to bug my friend. Hi, Spencer.
I told you I'm never doing your podcast again. I'm not doing it.
Oh
You,
yeah.
you can't sneak your way onto this one.
Hey, dude.
How are you?
Good man. What do you think of these guys?
Boys.
Yeah.
Is this a cross promotional thing here? We'll get all the other podcasts going.
no.
No.
I just want to show up, catch up.
I love it. Well, if you have any questions, actually, let's interview Bob. Welcome to the show, DJ Bob.
Hey.
He's a podcaster,
Hey, Bob.
a writer, an artist, a host. Bob, tell us about your childhood. Let's get into it.
It happened. That's it.
And that's all the time we have, folks. Thank you so much for podcast, like and subscribe. It's really gone off the rails, Bob. Look what you've done.
That's what happens with every call that I go on.
Yeah.
I can attest. Yes. Since Bob's here, one thing we did want to bring up is a radio special that we did last Christmas. Oh yeah, the holiday house party.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So much
I-
fun.
That was so fun.
For those who don't know, we did a little radio special for a radio station in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
That was fun to do.
Last Christmas, Jump 105.3 up in Pittsburgh, and it was so much fun to do. We had an all-star cast pretty much.
Yeah.
Who do we have as part of the cast? We had us. We had Tara Schaefer, Tara on Sesame Street in the 90s. Chris Thomas Hayes was a part of the cast as Shimulot. Yes.
Yeah.
Shimulot. Yes.
You came out with that on the spot. Yeah. That was
You came up with that on the spot. Who else?
Jake and I were there doing additional voices. We were
Yeah.
there briefly,
Yeah.
but that was a lot of
We
fun.
were we were in it as well, and it was just a blast. Who else? Chris Phillips was in it too. Chris Phillips was in it too. He was. It was so much fun. And we might do another one this year too.
Yeah, we're gonna do another
last
one.
year's. We're gonna do another one this year
Oh.
too.
Bigger
Yeah,
than
it's-
ever.
That's a
29
hot
We
scoop.
hope.
2019, I
first,
got to
folks.
do one with Bob too. 2019, I got to voice one
Oh
of the
yeah.
elves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got to voice an
But
elf. That was a lot of fun.
the reason why we're bringing this up is you kind of helped me get it started, Spencer.
Yep.
I have a very limited skill set. But I am good at if someone comes with an idea, I like to cook things and to spark things and say, okay, great. Here's how you could start. Here's a formula, or here's a
I knew you would
I'm
get it.
happy to help you start.
I knew you
Oh,
would
yeah.
get what we were trying to do. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Bob and I worked on it a lot. It was grueling because stuff happened, and we got it done in like 8
we only
days,
had
right?
8 days to do it.
8
Yeah, you
days.
cranked it
8
out, didn't you?
days.
Yeah,
We
that's
cranked it
crazy.
out 8 days, and it had very, very well reviews. Did it not? Yeah, it
Yeah.
did. It did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the
But it's-
secret, right? You surround yourself with talented people, and you make things. This is the dream. You somebody ridiculous like Bob has a terrible
up.
idea, and you're like, all right, Bob, I guess we'll run with it. And then you yes and you work together, and then you make something brand new that didn't exist before. Like this is the best.
Yeah. And the other thing that worth saying is when you have a group of people that work well together. You know their strengths and you know what they're good at. So I knew that Spencer was good at that kind of like self-aware kind of comedy sort of thing. So I brought Spencer on, and then I just brought all you guys on because I don't want to deal with people that don't get what we're trying to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Because that's not fun for anyone.
Right.
Although Spencer is currently filing the lawsuit since he got.
That's right. I haven't been paid a cent for all of that gold that I gave you, Bob. So don't worry, lawyers are on the phone with you as we speak. I'm sure all the money you made from the Christmas Spectacular, you'll be divvying up to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I might stick around if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course
Yeah.
you can. Of course you
Pull
can.
up a
sit down.
chair.
Yes.
I'm already
mean,
in one, so.
I mean, you missed some pretty cool stuff. Oh, that took me a second. Okay, cool. Yeah, you missed some pretty cool stuff, but yes, do stick around. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Be like an audience member. Sure.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'll be the Statler and Waldorf of the.
Oh yeah, if you could just heckle me from the
If
balcony,
you could just heckle
that would be a dream.
So you also actually got to do some outreach work with Sesame. Can you talk a bit about your work with that?
Which one are you referring to, Jake? Is there a specific like a video or an appearance or anything that you have in mind, or I can tell you, I can just talk
like
broadly.
outreach projects in general. It can be appearance or video.
I mean, you know, similar to what I said before, like I think that's some of the most important and exciting stuff that Sesame does. Whether, you know, if it's autism or being a foster child, drug and addiction, you know, like there's so many topics that our young people are being asked to grapple with all the time. And so I think whenever Sesame can create something specifically for them that give them and their parents tools to talk about it or unpack it, I think it's incredible.
Absolutely. They have a great team to do that. Like going all the way back to the earlier ones with, you know, Elmo and his dad when he comes back from the military. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the military initiatives, you know, these are all these little things. They create ripples, right? And anytime they can, that community gets seen, gets acknowledged, and can help them to find their voice and to make more content for them. It kind of feeds itself, which is really nice.
Absolutely. So you brought up the Macy's parade earlier. You mentioned Kathleen Kim's first year. Now I want to hear from yours. What were your experiences like at the Macy's parade?
Yeah, because you got to work with Sesame. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, because you got to work with Sesame and the Muppets.
That's right. So I am super fortunate. I've gotten to work with Sesame on the parade, the Muppets, Disney Muppets, and Fraggle Rock on the parade. So that has just been like so fun.
Gosh.
I know, right? The first time was with the Muppets, Disney Muppets, and it was, I believe, for the 90th.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Anniversary, right?
Yeah.
And so we did this kind of we rehearsed for a couple days that week, and then at the crack, you know, the call that morning is like 4:30 or something, 4:30 a.m. And then as you're all set and ready to go and rehearse, and as soon as the sun goes up, they start shooting bits that they'll use as pre-tape. And so I got to do, you know, it's like living the dream, you guys. I was doubling for Rolf, for Bill Beretta, for a group scene. He was doing Pepe, and I got to be a penguin with a scarf, which like doesn't get any better than that. And then so we did that for a couple of the shots, and then the Electric Mayhem played, and so I got to play bass with Floyd for the Electric Mayhem. And it's, you know, it's the opening of the parade, and they're like, "Welcome to the Macy's Day Parade," and they're screaming, and all these like dancers and cheerleaders run out and they're doing choreography. and you're just like holding on for dear life and playing the bass and having a blast. And it was so, I mean, it's great. It's the best, you know. It's like, it was so much fun getting to work with the Muppets and those guys. And it was a dream. It's a dream. So that was my very first one. And then, you know, they're done. We were done with the very first piece of the parade. And so we were cut by like 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. It was like, okay, you're released. That's all we need. Thanks so much. So then I watched, you know, stuck around for the parade for a little bit to wave at Sesame Street, wave at my buddies, and then went back to my Brooklyn apartment and watched the parade on TV. You know, watch it happening. So it was a joy. It was really fun. And then a couple years later, 4 or 5 years later, I got to do, maybe it was not this year, but the year before, I got to do the Sesame Float, which is so much fun. It's just the best, you know. It's just like that building you see on TV is like super, you know, old school and rickety and just like you know, ugly plywood on the inside. It's not glamorous at all, but you've got your puppet and you stick it through the window. And when you're inside going down, you know, the avenues are all the cross streets are full of people. And so you look out and there's thousands of people and they're screaming, "Bert, we love you, Bert," you know, "Elmo, Oscar." And the last 2 times I've done it, I had some obscure secondary, you know, I had that great gray Muppet, super long and skinny. You guys would recognize it with that long green hook nose and the eyes on top. Sometimes it's called Susie. It's old school Muppet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you know, of all the characters, it's like this extra monster that they've got. So I was just totally obnoxious, like, "It's Susie! It's everybody's favorite Muppet!" Introduce me. And it was the year that Ji Young was getting introduced, and I was like, "But it's me! I'm the star! I can't wait for you all to have the Susie plush dolls and the sweatshirts," you know, just like just screaming and being super obnoxious. And then that was 1 year, and then last year I got to do a snowman, and it was this, and I did the same shtick. It's just like random snowman, and you know, and we thought, oh, maybe it's a snowman from Muppet Family Christmas, but it's not. It was a different one. It was like this giant bulky puppet, and it was like not easy to do, but just like screaming because they're like, "Yeah, Elmo, yeah, Oscar," and then I'm there, and you hear somebody being like, "Hey, snowman." And the snowman's like, "Yeah, that's me."
That's amazing.
Just, you know, the dream is just to crack each other up, right, and to get each other giggling and to lean into the messiness of it. So I got to do Sesame for the parade, which is so much fun. And then last year I got to do Fraggle Rock. They did that cool bit, right, where they did some pre-tape stuff on the set, and then Dave Goles, the legend, was in New York and did, you know, Uncle Traveling Matt for that bit with Jessica Chastain at the top of the parade, and so I was just assisting him. He did, you know, he got trampled by a marching band, so I got to flip his little feet, and and then there was an RC that was like hanging off the float, and so I got to like kick his little legs. You know, it's just like all the weirdo fun stuff you get to do as an assist. And Dave was lovely and generous and smart and funny. You know, it's like just like the stories you hear. So I've gotten to do Muppet, Sesame, and Fraggle.
Wow.
So very, very fortunate.
Definitely.
I could imagine the 2016 one when when the marching band and the dancers. You think of it as rushing the field at a college football game. Like, where'd they come from?
I know, yeah. That was crazy though, because like when the parade comes on, you know, I usually expect, you know, to see Sesame, obviously, but I didn't expect to see the Muppets. That was crazy.
No, I love watching Sesame at the Macy's parade every year, as we all do.
And that was the year that I think Miss Piggy saved Tony Bennett.
That was,
of course,
yes, it was.
I forgot that's the year
when
Piggy saved Tony Bennett.
That was that year. Yeah.
Wow.
What a year.
I forgot all about that. Wait, what happened?
I think like Tony Bennett like almost like tripped or something and almost kind of like fell off the float and like Miss Piggy actually saved him.
I gotta watch that again.
The
Yeah, I can
float
only
started
imagine what
I
was
up
think
going
I
through
think
Eric's
kind of
yeah,
mind for
jerk,
yeah,
that.
it's yeah,
and
yeah.
he
I think
started
what
to
happened.
go.
It started moving, and then it just kind of
Yeah, I
you
can only
know.
imagine what was going
But
through
Miss
Eric's
Piggy
mind.
saved his life.
I
Yeah,
know, I know.
Eric didn't miss a beat. It was
Nope,
great.
Yeah,
nope.
Yeah,
yeah,
live TV, baby. You never know
Live
what'll
Yeah.
TV.
happen.
yeah.
Yes.
So aside from working with Sesame and the Muppets, you puppeteer on another series which is on Apple TV Plus, Helpsters. Can you talk a bit about that?
I mean, Helpsters is so much fun because whereas Sesame has the legacy and the importance of all these characters that we all know and love, Helpsters does not. And so the characters are new and they're weird, and you get to try crazy stuff. Marty and Tim and Stephanie and Jen, like those core group of puppeteers are so good, and they really push the limits. The showrunner was phenomenal. The writing was like by comedians, and all the guest hosts, a lot of the guest stars were indie comedians and Broadway performers. So it was just like silly and puppety. And it's a little bit different audience, a little bit different curriculum. And so they got to try stuff, and so it was so much fun. The Helpsters is just so weird
I was
and
watching it the other
delightful.
day. Sorry to step on it again, but I'm watching it the other day, and I noticed there was a line where Mr. Prim is like, you shouldn't be backpacking through Europe right now, or something like really like off base. I'm like, where did that come from?
I mean, they got to play, like they got to do some really
And
fun,
Tim,
weird stuff.
Can we talk about Tim McGowan for a second? Like, he's a nutcase, but we love him for it.
He's
Tim is
brilliant,
great.
right? He's brilliant. He knows what works. He's made so many dynamic shows, and so like his stuff is just awesome.
So you also, as you had mentioned earlier, got to work on the Fred Rogers biopic, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, both as a puppeteer and a puppet design builder. What was it like getting to work on with such an iconic franchise as Fred Rogers?
I mean, I am, as I said, like growing up, Sesame and Fred Rogers were like my jam. I'm obsessed with Fred Rogers and always have been. And
Same.
my family's got a personal connection. Fred Rogers was my wife's godfather, and knew my wife's parents, and so to be able to work on that film was just a dream. It was just the best. It was a good script. Mariel Heller, the director, is unbelievable. She's so smart and so talented, and treated everyone so well. And everyone brought their best work. Everyone like wanted it to live up to Fred and the standard and the impact of that. And I describe it as like an indie movie that Tom Hanks is hiding inside. It's a kind of a weird movie. There's some really beautiful moments, some really touching moments, and and like Tom's performance is pretty spectacular. It was a dream. It was so much fun. I think we built 7 puppets in 6 weeks, and we got to go to the archives and pull the originals out of the glass and look at them and measure them and study them and figure out, because there weren't patterns or anything like that, and create them from scratch. And then taught Tom how to puppeteer and how to work, in the way that Fred did, and then helped cast the puppeteers for the movie. And then we got to make the movie. I was there, I think, for 4 or 5 days over the course of shooting, and then a reshoot, and it was the best. It was such a fun, and we shot it in Pittsburgh, in the studio where Fred shot his show for decades. So there's people around there. I got to meet his sons. I got to meet Mr. McFeely. I got to meet producers. All these people, and they were just lovely. And they're like, thanks for being here, and thanks for taking so much care with the puppets. And like everyone there, it was kind of a love fest. We all we're so excited and honored to be there and to be making something that we hoped would do Fred justice. And so we're huge, and it's like the same thing that's happening with Don Quixote, right? With Redmond's production,
Yes.
and the work that Haley
Wonderful
is
show.
doing, and
Oh, yes.
Frankie and David and
Great,
Stephanie, like
amazing show.
those people are so lovely, and to be able to continue that mission with all the work that Fred Roberts Productions does is really really cool. So the movie was a dream. It was so much fun,
Yes.
and I really cherish having gotten to work on it.
Now, kind of moving on from puppeteering a bit, we mentioned as well you also done some acting in theater. What's it like doing theater?
I love doing theater, and it's nice to have a balance of some TV and film and some theater. The fun thing about theater is that it's live.
Yeah.
And so you have instant
Mhm.
reactions from the audience. You know if something's working or if it isn't. You're sharing, especially coming out of the pandemic, right? Anytime you're in space with other people and you're sharing a moment, you're telling a story, you can hear the people next to you gasp or sigh or cry or laugh. Those moments. It's hard to match what live theater can do for us and to us. So I love it, and as an artist, you balance what you can. You do some TV to pay the bills, and then you get to do some theater to feel your heart, and you go back and forth, and they all have. There's room for everything, but I love doing live theater.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Definitely. So working as a puppeteer and actor, are there any like key values or lessons that you've taken over the years?
I mean, I just try and people have told me versions of this for many years. It's like it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so act like it's a marathon and take care of yourself. If it's really hard to be an actor or an artist if you don't have if you're not healthy, or if you don't have the support of your family or housing, or whatever it is, take care of yourself, and be nice to everyone. Just be nice to everyone, because this is a leapfrog industry. So one day you're number one on the call sheet, and the next day the person who is getting you coffee is your new director or your new producer, and then the day after that you get to hire them for some other thing. We all success begets success, and you try and surround yourself with talented people. And so you be nice to everyone, or you be professional and courteous, and all these things that are so basic, but that make a huge difference when you are being vulnerable, when you're acting, when you're writing, when you're improvising, when you're doing any kind of creative endeavor. It's a super vulnerable space. So when you can make space for each other and be nice to each other, I think that's kind of the name of the game in my book.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
And ice cream, also ice cream. If there's ice
yes.
cream there,
Yes, definitely
you
ice
should,
I love
you should
ice
just
cream.
eat it.
Yes. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So one of the recent things you did was you co-founded a studio by the name of Simple Mischief Studio. How did that come about?
So this comes from just knowing all these talented people. In this industry, there's not that many shows, and the way that it is now, that there's way more talent. There's a way more diverse talent pool, and there's way more talent than there maybe ever has been. But there's not enough being made. And because I've been at Sesame and work at all these places, I know how to make it, and I know how to to build a team with all these talented people above and below the line, who can help us make it. And so we are trying to we're developing original IP and stories and pitching TV shows to streamers, networks, all kinds of different production companies. And then we're also buying IP, getting the rights to books and things like that to develop. And we're just hoping that we can make more work for all of our talented friends, and set them up for success and let them do their thing. So that people, there's so many, as you guys know, there's like so many avenues for animation. Um, You can do it fast and slow and international or local or 2D, 3D, all these things. And puppetry still doesn't have that many pipelines, and so we're trying to just be another and a nimble, efficient pipeline to try and get more work made as best we can. And we're a creative studio, so we do ads and commercials and TV and film, and we're going to push into the picture books, which is super exciting. We do some theater and some live kind of live events as well. We're gonna try and offer some classes with all of the talented people that I know. So people who are like big puppet fans or supporters or who want to just try something or who want to like some professional coaching. We're also going to offer that. And then we're gonna kind of percolate some projects and see what we can do. We've been producing some new work around Fancy Duck, which is this kind of ridiculous character that I've created, who's it's just this ugly, weird duck puppet, and he's got an ego and an agenda, and he thinks he's fancy, and he's just a duck. But he's on TikTok and Instagram, and one of his videos last week, blew up and got 104,000 views, in 48 hours and that kind of stuff. So we're developing some music videos and a YouTube show around him, which is super fun.
Nice.
So yeah, if you're looking for some very odd, another puppet, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably like, I need another puppet to follow on Instagram. Then check out Fancy Duck. It's pretty ridiculous.
So to anyone watching or listening, what would you like to say to those who have kind of supported you throughout your career?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's not lost on me. I'm so grateful, and I'm so excited to be doing what I'm doing. I'm so excited to be in a community, like this one, that loves it deeply, right? We are a special kind of nerd, and we found this thing and we've latched onto it, and it's so important, and it's such a lovely community of it does like mirror the Muppets pretty well, right? It's like this group of oddballs, and we found each other, and we can bond and relate to each other over these characters and these moments, and we have such a shared vocabulary and a shared history in that way. So my hope is just to make more. I want more. I want more shows for young people so they can fall in love with new characters, new styles of puppetry, new things. I'm super excited about more diverse shows and new authentic storytellers. I think it's such an exciting time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's trying to continue the legacy while not being too precious about it, but using it to make new work and to help us all connect and tell stories that resonate with as many people as possible. And so thank you all for this show and shows like it. It's much better than the DJ Bob show. There's so much more interesting. Really?
You can't do Bob like that. Come on.
It's such a great comparison, really, because you can just be like, well, it's apples and oranges. So
I taught them everything they know.
Yeah, no, that's true, because I used to be a co-host on Bob's show for 2 years.
I know the Venn diagram of Pop Culture Podcast. I know you all are good friends, and I'm a huge fan and supporter, and I love so many of your guests, and I'm so tickled to be a tiny part of it, and to get to speak with you about this stuff that I love so much. And if you have questions or if things come up and you're like, oh, what about this, or if you're interested in like classes or in making TV or any of those things, I'm not hard to find. So really reach out. Thanks, Bob. And we can make some new stuff together.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I was just about to ask if people would like to connect with you. Where can people find you?
Yeah. I'm on the Instagram, and I'm on Fancy Duck is on TikTok, and I got a website. You can do my website's Mr. Lott, MrLott.com, and also Simple Mischief. I think it's SimpleMischiefStudio.com. Again, not hard to find. Those are all on Instagram and Threads as well. And we're always looking for new partners, new co-producers, funding. We're actively trying to get things made. So if there's those of you watching or listening who want to make some really high quality stuff, not exclusively for young people, but often for young people, then let us know.
Nice. And links to those will be in the description down below for people to connect with you. So
Yes.
So the last
Thank
question.
you. That's great.
Yes,
of course.
So last question that Jake's about to ask is a question that we usually ask to all of our guests at the end. Go ahead, Jake.
Yes. So of course, this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show.
Yep.
Hey, look at that.
Yep.
And you think of nostalgia, when you think of, or in your own words, how would you define the word nostalgia?
I think nostalgia is that warm, cozy place. It's that place that you want to return to, or that is easy to tap into. So often it has to do with when we're young, right? And we're witnessing or being a part of something that moves us, or especially like makes us laugh. For me, my nostalgia is often rooted in watching TV with my family and seeing my parents laugh at a joke that I don't understand, but my parents are laughing at it. So what's happening here? What should I need to listen a little bit harder. So nostalgia is that cozy, comforting place, and it's like it's a door. It's a door to connection. And so nostalgia is the thing. Us puppet nerds, us like Sesame Hints and Muppet nerds, it brings us closer together. Bob's show and all the guests he has. We're nostalgia is a shared community.
But it's also bridging the gap to now, because without those memories, you can't create anything new because you have nothing. You want to create those feelings for this generation.
That's right. It's the history, right? It's like looking back at history and saying, "Oh, this made me feel this way. This made me feel this way. How can I continue that, or how can I provide that for my audiences, or the next generation, or my kid, or fill in the blank, whatever story you're trying to tell."
Absolutely. Great word to end on. Well, Spencer, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was an absolute blast.
Yes,
thank you so
Thanks,
much.
y'all.
Thank
It's a
you.
Yes, of
joy.
course.
Glad we were able to
Yes.
make this happen. And
Yes.
Your show is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Keep making
thank you.
more. It's so exciting. It's so important for our little community. So thank you.
Yes, of course. And thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thank you for being on, and thank you very much. For what you've done. Sesame and other things. To be a part of our lives. And keep up the great work. And cannot wait what's next in store for you.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a
Yes.
real honor and a treat,
My
even though you
pleasure.
let Bob ruin our interview.
Hey!
Come on, you cannot do that to Bob like that. Come on.
I'm calling you after this. I'm calling you after this. I have to tell you something.
Not unless you're putting on a shirt, Bob. Don't call me.
He had it.
But yes, and again to Bob, to all of our viewers and listeners, Bob's hopped on to surprise people in interviews. He also
too many
he also filled in for Matt as a guest co-host on an interview.
Yeah, he filled in for me once a couple months ago.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, you're good people. You're smart, good people, and this is an awesome project. So keep doing it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, Spencer. I'll let you know.
All right,
this
y'all.
goes
Yeah,
up.
have a good one. Yeah.
Yes,
Let me know when
thank you.
it's posted,
Thank
I
you,
can share
you
it.
You too. Bye-bye,
Bye,
Spencer.
guys.
Bye.
See you, Spencer.
Spencer.
Take care.
And it's goodbye from us and Bob as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely enjoy your
Bob.
time with Spencer Lott. And as always, what do we say, Jake?
Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone, and see you next time for amazing more new episodes coming your way.
Yes.
Stay tuned for that.
Bye,
Take care,
everyone.
Bye-bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show interview. Be sure to follow Jake and the crew on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.